Good day everyone, Sir Janus here and welcome to another episode of Kinetics TV. Today, we are going to talk about the behavior of gases, which is covered by Science 10, Quarter 4 of Module 1. For this following video, we are going to discuss about Gay-Lussac's law, Charles' law, Boyle's law, and the combined gas law for the Part A. So please stay tuned for the Part B. So let's start. Before we proceed, let us have quick reminders. So feel free to pause the video anytime to soak up the concepts. You can also pause the video, especially when answering the assessments or quizzes. Pwede kang gumamit ng separate papers for your answers. And you may also download the module provided by the link on the video description. And of course, the most important, don't forget to subscribe so that you will be updated with new content. Today's video is covered by this most essential learning competency, and that is, we are going to try to investigate the relationship between volume and pressure at constant temperature of a gas, and also volume and temperature at constant pressure of a gas, as well as we are going to try to explain these relationships using kinetic molecular theory. Specifically, we are going to try to meet the following objectives. Yung una is to recognize yung symbols used to describe the gas such as N, P, R, T, V, and STP. The second one is we are also going to try to explain yung interrelationship between pressure, volume, and temperature. For the third objective, we are going to try to solve problems involving changes in the condition of the gas using the equations for Boyle's law, Charles' law, combined gas law, Gay-Lussac's law, Avogadro's law, as well as the ideal gas law. The fourth objective is we are going to try to describe how gas density is related to pressure, temperature, and the number of moles by the ideal gas law. And the last is we are going to try to determine the application of gas laws in daily occurrences. Before we would start, let us try first to remember ano nga ba yung mga katangian or properties that describe a gas. Can you still remember? So the first one is it has a low density because the particles are far apart, or yung mga particles niya ay sobrang lalayo sa isa't isa. Second property would be, it can be compressed as there is space between particles. Third one, just like liquid, it has no fixed shape as the particles move about rapidly in all directions. Yung ikaapat naman, it can diffuse o madali siyang kumalat as the particles are able to move in all directions. And lastly, it can exert a lot of pressure as the particles are able to move in all directions and is able to hit or tatamaan niya yung sides of the container. It is important to remember that gases are described in terms of four properties. Yung una is pressure, which is represented by this big letter P. Yung volume naman, yung big letter V. Temperature is represented by T, and amount is, or the number of molecules is represented by small letter N. First, let us discuss about the volume of a gas, yung pinakaunang property. It is important to note na yung volume of a gas is the same as the volume of the container it occupies. So usually, it is expressed in liters or milliliters. And it also increases with an increase in temperature at a constant pressure. The second property that we are going to talk about is about temperature. So yung temperature of a gas relates to the average kinetic energy of the molecules, or it refers to its movement, and is measured in Kelvin temperature scale. Now, it is important to remember that when the temperature of a gas is decreased, ibig sabihin bumaba yung kanyang temperature, yung molecules have fewer collisions, or konti lang yung magbabanggaan kasi mas mabagal yung movement ng mga molecules of gases. But on the other hand, pag yung temperature naman is increased o mas tumaas, since mas mabilis yung movement ng mga molecules, so mas marami yung chances of collisions. So, temperature is measured in Kelvin, Celsius, and Fahrenheit, but usually when dealing with gas laws, we are going to use the Kelvin as the unit of measurement. The next property is yung pressure. So, ano nga ba yung pressure? So, it is a measure of the gas particle collisions with the sides of a container. And usually, it is expressed by the following units of measurement. So, pwedeng gamitin yung millimeters of mercury, or yung kanyang abbreviation is mmHg. Pwede rin naman yung torricelli or torr, atmosphere or atm, pascals or pa, kilopascals or kPa, and pound per square inch or psi. So it is important to remember na yung gas particles in the air exist on as called atmospheric pressure. So paano nga ba mini-measure yung pressure or yung atmospheric pressure that the air exerts on us? So yung instrument that is used is known as a barometer. So based on this, we can see that yung 760 millimeters of mercury is equals to 1 atmosphere, and it is also equals to 760 torr. By the way, the inventor of barometer is si Evangelista Torricelli. So he was the one who invented the barometer. So here are the different units of pressure. As you can see here, andito yung atmosphere, millimeters of mercury, Torricelli down to kilopascals. So how about if there are variations or magkaiba yung unit of pressure na ginamit in a certain problem? Paano nga ba yung kanyang pag-convert? So based on your previous years or kahit nasa math, we are going to use the conversion factors, wherein yung given unit will be multiplied by the desired unit over the given unit para makuha mo yung desired unit, as well as cancel out yung given unit para yung matitira na lang is yung unit na desired. So let us try to apply what you have learned sa conversion. Suppose let us solve number 1. You are going to convert 475 millimeters of mercury and you are going to express it in atmosphere. So what would be the correct answer? So you may pause the video while answering and just press play to determine its answer. So for number 1, the correct answer would be letter B. So paano nga ba nakuha yon? So by applying the formula that was given earlier, so ito yung sagot. Yung 475, which is the given unit, multiplied by the desired unit, which is yung atmosphere, divided by the value of the given unit, which is 760 millimeters of mercury. Cancel out yung magkaparehong unit. Then, you are going to multiply 475 by 1 and divide it by 760. So, the answer is 0.625 atmosphere. Now, for number 2 naman, convert 2 atmosphere to millimeters of mercury. So, this is the reverse. Correct answer is letter B. And ito po yung solution. The first gas law that we are going to take up is known as Boyle's law. This type of gas law deals with pressure and volume, and according to this law, there is an inverse relationship between pressure and volume. Ano nga ba yung ibig sabihin ng inverse? So, ibig sabihin, halimbawa nag-increase yung pressure, expected mo na magdi-decrease yung volume. Or kung halimbawa naman mag-increase yung volume, magdi-decrease naman yung pressure. Ibig sabihin, what happens to the other, kabaliktaran yung mangyayari dun sa isa. Now, the learning goal for this one is we are going to use the pressure-volume relationship to determine the final pressure or volume when the temperature and amount of gas are constant. So you might be wondering, paano ba na-conceptualize yung Boyle's law? Now, yung Boyle's law is na-formulate based on the experiment of Robert Boyle and Robert Hooke. So they used a J-tube to measure the volume of a sample of a gas at different pressure. Now, As a result of this experiment, they observe an inverse relationship between volume and pressure, and hence an increase in one causes a decrease in the other. It is important to remember that Boyle's law states that the pressure of a gas is inversely related to its volume when temperature is constant. Ibig sabihin, baliktad yung kanilang relationship. Kung mag-increase yung isa, magdi-decrease naman yung isa. Kung mag-decrease yung isa, automatic na mag-increase yung other factor. Now, yung general formula for Boyle's law is P1V1 is equals to P2V2. What does this stands for? Yung P1 is initial pressure or the starting pressure. V1 naman is initial volume. P2 is final pressure and V2 is final volume. Now, yung Boyle's law is illustrated on this one, on this picture. Kung makikita natin, yung volume niya is nag-decrease. Makikita natin na nag-i-increase naman yung kanyang pressure. So from 4 liter, nabawasan siya into 2 liter, whereas yung pressure naman is nag-increase from 1 to 2. Let's take a closer look kung ano nga ba yung nangyayari sa Boyle's law. Bakit nga ba pag mag-decrease yung volume, nag-i-increase yung pressure? So let's use this one as an example. So, nang nag-decrease yung volume, as you can see here, mas nagsisiksikan yung mga particles and thus, mas malaki yung chance na magbabanggaan yung mga gas molecules and that would result in greater pressure. This time, let's proceed to a guide to using gas laws. Paano nga ba yung pag-solve ng mga problems involving gas laws? So, yung pag-solve ng mga gas laws is easy as 1, 2, 3. We are going to only follow 3 easy steps. First one or step 1 is just like in any mathematical or word problems in math, you are going to organize the data in a table of initial and final conditions. Step 2, rearrange the gas law equation to solve for the unknown quantity. And lastly, you are now going to substitute the values into the gas law equation and calculate. And of course, don't forget to use the order of operations known as PEMDAS sa pagkakasunod-sunod ng iyong mathematical computations. Let's use this problem as an example. Freon 12 was used in refrigeration systems. What is the new volume of an 8-liter sample of Freon initially at 550 millimeters of mercury after its pressure is changed to 2,200 millimeters of mercury at constant temperature and moles? Now, step 1, organize the data in a table of initial and final conditions. Now, it is easy to identify kung ano nga ba yung mga units for volume kasi it is usually yung units niya is either liter or ml. On the other hand naman, malalaman mo kaagad na it is units for pressure kasi usually yung mga units niya is either millimeters of mercury, torr, atm, psi, kPa, pa, and others. Now, yung initial pressure is 550 millimeters of mercury. Then, yung starting volume naman is 8 liter. Now, yung what is asked is yung volume kung na-change yung pressure from 550 to 2,200 millimeters of mercury. From here, alam mo na kaagad na yung pressure increases kasi from 550 to 2,200. So, expected mo na yung value ng volume would decrease because of Boyle's law na there is an inverse relationship between pressure and volume. So, step 2, we are going to rearrange the gas law equation to solve for the unknown quantity. So, P1V1 is equals to P2V2. So, to solve for V2, divide both sides by P2 para ma-cancel out yung P2 and matitira na lang yung V2. So, thus, we derive this formula. So, V2 is equals to V1 times P1 over P2. Now, step 3, you are just going to substitute the values. So, of course, yung V1 is 8 liter. Yung P1 is 550 millimeters of mercury over P2 which is 2,200 millimeters of mercury. Now, naalala nyo pa yung PEMDAS? So, multiply mo muna kung ano yung value nito, saka mo pa lang siya i-divide by 2,000 millimeters of mercury. So, that would equal to 2 liter. Let's check your understanding about Boyle's law. So we are going to use these 3 cylinders as an example. So for a cylinder containing helium gas, indicate if cylinder A or cylinder B represents the new volume for the following changes. So what would be the correct cylinder if the pressure decreases? Is it cylinder A or cylinder B? Take note na yung pressure is nag-decrease. So, alin dyan? Yung magiging final pressure niya, A or B? Correct answer for this one would be cylinder B. And how about for pressure increases? Then definitely the correct answer would be cylinder A. So as you can see, remember that there is an inverse relationship between pressure and volume. Dito, nag-increase yung pressure, so expected mo na mag-i-increase yung kanyang volume. Dito naman, nag-increase yung pressure, of course, magdi-decrease naman yung kanyang volume. Let's have another sample problem. Suppose a helium gas has a volume of 120 ml and a pressure of 850 millimeters of mercury. What is the new volume if the pressure is changed to 425 millimeters of mercury at constant temperature and mole? So, is it A, 60 ml, B, 120 ml, letter C, 250 ml? Please use itong mga given to solve for the problem. You may pause the video while answering and press play to know the answer. Done already? So here is the correct answer. The correct answer is letter C, which is 240 ml. Did you get it correct? If so, congratulations. Let's use another sample problem. Suppose helium gas in a balloon has a volume of 6.4 liter at a pressure of 0.70 atmosphere. What if its pressure is changed to 1.40 atmosphere? Ano kaya yung magiging itsura ng balloon? Is it A, B, or C? Okay? Correct answer for this one, yung pressure is nag-increase sa 0.70 to 1.40. So, yung magiging itsura ng balloon is, of course, letter A. From its initial volume, like this one na malaki, of course, liliit siya kasi nag-increase yung kanyang pressure from 0.70 to 1.40. This time, let us link Boyle's law on how we breathe or for respiration. So, during inhalation, as we can see, yung lungs is nag-expand. When lungs expand, yung pressure ng ating lungs is nagdi-decrease. Because of this one, yung air flows toward the lower pressure in the lungs and thus, nag-i-inflate yung ating lungs kasi decrease yung pressure kaya yung volume sa ating lungs is mag-i-increase. During exhalation naman, yung lung volume decreases. Ano kayo nagkukos ng pag-decrease ng lung volume? Of course, there is an increase in pressure within the lungs. Air flows from the higher pressure in the lungs to the outside because the diaphragm relaxes or moves up and thus increasing the pressure within the lungs. Let us now apply all that you have learned about Boyle's law. Now, habang nag-answer ka, pwede mong i-pause yung video and then you may use a separate sheet of paper for your answers. And you can just press play to check whether you get the correct answer or not. So, good luck. Here are the correct answers for the given problem. So, for number 1, correct answer dito is 1.5 liter. Sa number 2 naman, the correct answer nito is 1.9 atmosphere. Did you get it all correct? If so, congratulations. This time, let us proceed to the relationship between temperature and volume, which is known as Charles' law. Our learning goal for this type of gas law is that we are going to use the temperature-volume relationship or Charles' law para malaman natin yung final temperature or volume when the pressure and amount of gas are constant. By the way, one application of this gas law is the use of hot air balloon. The relationship between temperature and volume, also known as Charles' law, was proposed by Jacques Charles. He studied the effect of temperature on the volume of a gas at constant pressure. And quick fact about Jacques Charles, he is also the first person to make an ascent or unang gumamit ng hydrogen balloon. Now, according to this law, that absolute temperature is the temperature measured in Kelvin. So, bakit Kelvin? Because the Kelvin scale must be used because 0 on the Kelvin scale corresponds to a complete stoppage of molecular motion. Now, let's take a closer look on what happens on Charles' law through a molecular view. So, bakit nga ba pag nag-i-increase yung temperature is nag-i-increase din yung kanyang volume? Now, let's take this one as an example. If we move a balloon na nandun sa ice water tapos bigla nating inilagay sa boiling water, mag-expand yung balloon. Bakit? Because the increase in temperature, mag-i-increase yung kanyang kinetic energy. So, mas mabilis gumalaw yung mga molecules or gas particles. So, that's the reason why, because of this one, na mas mabilis gumalaw yung mga particles ng gas, that's the reason why mas mabilis na mag-take up yung space because of the increased temperature. So ano nga ba yung sinasabi ng Charles' law? So according to Charles' law, the volume occupied by a fixed amount of gas is directly proportional to its absolute temperature if the pressure remains constant. So ano nga bang ibig sabihin nito? Ibig sabihin nito, pag yung temperature ng isang gas nag-increase, yung kanyang volume din is mag-i-increase. Kaya nga tinatawag na directly proportional. So just like this one, from 200 naging 400 yung kanyang temperatures, then as a result, nag-increase din yung kanyang volume. Now, the general formula for Charles' law is V1 over T1 is equals to V2 over T2. Kagaya nun sa Boyle's law, V1 represents initial volume, yung V2 naman is the final volume, T1 naman is represents temperature, so this would be initial temperature, and T2 would be the final temperature. So for two conditions, Charles' law is written as this one, V1 T1 is equals to V2 over T2. So if we are going to arrange Charles' law to solve for V2, so we are going to use this one, V1 times T2 over T1 is equals to V2 times T2 over V2. So ibig sabihin nito, our formula that we are going to use is this one, V2 is equals to V1 times T2 over T1. For the other formula, we are going to use the same method, just like this one. Here's the general formula, V1 T2 is equals to V2 over T1. Now, para naman ma-solve yung T2, here is now the given formula. So, T2 is equals to T1 times V2 over V1. Now, let's try calculations using Charles' law. So, gamitin natin yung problem na to. A balloon has a volume of 785 milliliter at 21 degrees Celsius. If the temperature drops to 0 degrees Celsius, what is the new volume of the balloon at constant pressure and moles? Of course, just like the first one, we are going to organize muna yung data in a table of initial and final conditions. So yung V1 dito is yung 785 ml. Then yung T1 mo is 21 degrees Celsius. Of course, since gagamit tayo ng Kelvin, so you are going to convert it into Kelvin temperature muna by adding 273. So 21 degrees Celsius is equivalent to 294 Kelvin. So V2 is what is asked or the unknown. And of course, yung T2, 0 degrees Celsius plus 273 is 273 Kelvin. Now, you already know that yung temperature is nag-decrease. So expected mo that yung volume would also decrease. So step 2, rearrange to solve for the unknown quantity which is V2. So yung ating magiging formula nito is V2 is equals to V1 times T2 over T1. Now, the last step is to substitute the values into the gas law equation and calculate. So, yung 785 ml is represented yung sa V1, then 273 for the T2 over T1 which is 294 Kelvin. So, 785 times 273. So, the answer would be divided by 294. Cancel out the same unit. So, matitira na lang yung unit of measurement for volume which is ml. So, the correct answer for this one is 720 ml. Now, try to answer this one. A sample of oxygen has a volume of 420 ml at a temperature of 18 degrees Celsius. At what temperature in degrees Celsius? So meaning, i-convert mo siya sa degrees Celsius. Will the volume of the oxygen be 640 ml? So is it A, 443 degrees Celsius, B, 170, or negative 82 degrees Celsius? So gamitin mo to, yung given, and what is asked is yung final temperature. So pause the video habang nagsasagot ka or nag-answer, then press play to know the correct answer. Okay? So the correct answer for this one is 170 degrees Celsius. Did you get it all correct? So if so, congratulations. Now, using what you've learned sa Boyle's Law at saka sa Charles' Law, let us try to complete the sentence using increases or decreases. So are you ready? So letter A, pressure blank when volume decreases at constant temperature and moles. Is it increases or decreases? Correct answer for this one is increases. Kasi yung naalala mo pa, at constant temperature, pressure is inversely proportional to its volume. Naalala nyo pa kung anong gas law? That is sa Boyle's Law. How about sa letter B? When temperature decreases, what would happen to its volume? Is it increases or decreases? Correct answer for this one is decreases. Kasi temperature is directly proportional to its volume at constant pressure as according to Charles' Law. Letter C naman, pressure blank when volume changes from 12 liter to 24 liter. Is it increases or decreases? Correct answer is decreases. And the last one, volume blank when temperature changes from 15 degrees Celsius to 45 degrees Celsius. Correct answer for this one is increases. Did you get it all correct? So congratulations. Now let's try to accomplish activity number 3 or solve me. So please answer the following problems regarding Charles' Law. So you may write your answer on a separate sheet of paper. So while doing so, you may pause the video while answering and just press play to check whether you got the correct answer or not. So good luck. So here are the correct answers for the given problem. So for number 1 is T2 is 147 Kelvin. Dito naman sa number 2, since yung what is asked is V2, correct answer is 1,215 ml. This time, let us explore the relationship between temperature and pressure, also known as Gay-Lussac's law. This was proposed by the French chemist Joseph Gay-Lussac, who discovered the relationship between the pressure of a gas and its absolute temperature. Ano nga ba yung sinasaad ng Gay-Lussac's law? According to this law, yung Kelvin temperature of a gas, pag nag-double siya, at constant volume, the amount of a gas, the pressure also doubles. In short, directly proportional yung temperature sa kanyang pressure. So, learning goal natin for today is to use temperature-pressure relationship to determine the final temperature or pressure when the volume and amount of gas are constant. Gay-Lussac's law states that the pressure exerted by a gas is directly related to the Kelvin temperature of the gas. So, the general formula for Gay-Lussac's law is P1 over T1 is equals to P2 over T2. So, P1 is the initial pressure, T1 is the initial temperature, P2 is the final pressure, whereas T2 is the final temperature. So, volume and amount of gas are constant. So, let us take a look at this figure. Makikita natin na kung yung temperature nag-increase from 200 Kelvin, of course, mag-i-increase din yung kanyang pressure. From 200 to 400, wherein na-doble yung kanyang temperature, na-double din yung kanyang pressure. So, here are the formulas that we would be using, or this can be derived from the general formula. So, kung halimbawa, yung nawawala is the initial pressure, ito yung gagamitin natin. Pag yung initial temperature naman, we are going to use this one. If final pressure yung hinahanap, we are going to use this one. And lastly, if final temperature, we are going to use this formula. So, if you are wondering kung paano nga ba na-solve yung mga formulas for P2 galing sa general formula, so we are going to use this method. This time, let us try calculations using Gay-Lussac's law. So, a gas has a pressure of 2 atmosphere at 18 degrees Celsius. What do you think is the new pressure when the temperature is 62 degrees Celsius? So, yung P1 dito is 2 atmosphere. Yung T1, convert mo muna siya into Kelvin by adding 273. So, yung P2, yung what is asked or the unknown. T2, change it to Kelvin by adding 273. So, you already know that temperature increases. So, predicted mo or aasahan mo that the pressure would also increase. So step 2, rearrange to solve for the unknown quantity or isolve mo yung kanyang formula. So you can just use the formulas given kanina. And then of course lastly, substitute the values into the gas laws equation and calculate. And thus 2 times 335 Kelvin over 291 Kelvin. So cancel out yung the same unit per Kelvin. 2 times 335 then divided by 291. The correct answer now would be 2.3 atmosphere. Now let us check how much you have learned sa Gay-Lussac's law. A gas has a pressure of 645 torricelli at 128 degrees Celsius. What is the temperature in Celsius if the pressure increases to 824 torricelli? So use the given to calculate. So, you may pause the video while answering and press play to check kung tama yung sagot mo. So, okay? So, here is the correct answer. So, correct answer for this one is 512 Kelvin. But since pinapa-compute ano yung kanyang temperature in Celsius, so you can do that by just subtracting 273. So, the correct answer for this one is 239 degrees Celsius. So, tama ba yung sagot mo? So, congratulations sa'yo. Now, try to answer activity 4 or try me. So, try to answer question number 1 and 2. So, just like before, you may use a separate sheet of paper to solve for the problem. And then, you may just press play yung video to check kung tama ba yung sagot mo. So, here's the correct answer for the problems given. Sa number 1, since yung T1 daw is not triple. So, of course, 25 times 3, the correct answer is 75 degrees Celsius. Then, convert mo siya sa Kelvin. So, yung T1, 25 plus 273, correct answer niya is 298 Kelvin. Yung T2 naman is 348 Kelvin. So, substitute na ngayon yung mga values. So, and you are going to derive 759 torricelli. Dito naman, sa number 2, correct answer is 2.13 atmosphere. One application of Gay-Lussac's law is the use of pressure cooker. So in a closed container such as a pressure cooker, a pressure greater than 1 atmosphere or 760 torr can be obtained. And as a result, water boils at a higher temperature than 100 degrees Celsius. Kaya nga pag need palambutin ng mas mabilis yung karne, such as yung baka, so we are going to use pressure cooker because of the increased pressure, mas higher yung temperature sa loob and thus mas mabilis na lumambot yung karne na niluluto. The next gas law that we are going to discuss is about the combined gas law. So siguro meron na kayong idea kung ano yung mangyayari dito sa gas law na to. From the word combined, ibig sabihin, yung mga units ng pressure, volume, and temperature is what we are going to explore kung ano ba yung mga relationships nila in terms sa gases. So, just like in here, example yung sa underwater, the pressure on a diver is greater than the atmospheric pressure. So, yung learning goal natin for this gas law is using now the gas law to calculate the final pressure, volume, or temperature of a gas when changes in two of these properties are given and the amount of gas is constant. So ano nga ba yung ibig sabihin ng combined gas law? Ano ba yung relationship between pressure, volume, and temperature? Now, combined gas law states that the pressure and volume are inversely related to each other, whereas they are both directly related to its temperature. Now, from the general formula, the following formulas can be derived. So, if we are going to use, if P1 is what is asked, we are going to use this one. Pag V1 naman, we are going to use this formula. Pag temperature naman, we are going to use this formula. For P2, we are going to use this one. Then V2 and for T1. So take note of the following formulas kasi this would help you a lot in solving problems with regards to combined gas law. Now let us have a sample problem. So, a gas's volume of 675 ml at 35 degrees Celsius and 646 millimeters of mercury pressure. So, what is the volume of the gas at negative 95 degrees Celsius and a pressure of 802 millimeters of mercury? Overwhelming ba? Kasi marami yung units of measurement? Do not worry. Kasi, first step, o-organize mo muna. So, identify mo ano yung mga units para sa pressure, volume, and temperature para hindi ka malito. Then, identify kung ano yung hinahanap, which is, for this particular problem, yung nawawala is yung V2. So, just like all the other gas laws, yung step 2 natin is to rearrange or solve for the unknown quantity for V2. But since binigyan na kita kanina or binigyan ko na kayo ng formulas, so you are just going to select kung ano yung formulas na gagamitin nyo. So, in this case, since yung nawawala is final volume, so we are going to use this formula. The next step is to substitute now the values and calculate. So, multiply mo muna 675 ml times 646 millimeters of mercury times 178 Kelvin. Then, cancel out muna yung mga units of measurement na magkakapareho. Then, heat equals. So, multiply mo then yung 802 by 308. Then, tsaka mo pa lang siya i-divide. Kung ano yung mga sagot nito, then divide by the answers of here, then the correct answer would be 314 ml. Now, try to answer this one from what you have learned on the combined gas law. So, using now yung mga binigay na mga given, so try to answer or solve for the final temperature. So, you may just pause the video while answering and press play to check kung tama ba yung sagot mo. So, the correct answer for this one is 331 degrees Celsius kasi it needs to be converted into degrees Celsius. So, tama ba yung sagot mo? So, keep up the good work. Now, try to test how much you have learned on the combined gas law by answering this activity. So, kagaya kanina, you may just pause the video while answering and just press play to check whether your answers is correct or not. So, good luck. So, for number 1, the correct answer is 40.51 degrees Celsius. Sa number 2 naman, correct answer is 708.4 ml. So, tama ba lahat yung sagot mo? Good job! That's it for today's video. So, I hope na nakatulong sa'yo yung video lesson na to. So, please don't forget to click like, subscribe, and ring the bell for you to be updated on the next upcoming videos. So, I'm Synatics out.